Shadowy, ethereal, and nearly all of the time, scary. But enough about me, your host, Sokita Kiev. Welcome back to the TheWHYFiles. Today, we'll be joined by guests of past, Tara, Kemra, Mary, Cam, and Angelica. Join us as we attempt to explore and examine all the spooky what, when, where, and why of ghosts, near-death experiences, and hauntings in this segment of the TheWHYFiles, Where to Today? Beyond Death. So buckle up. Are you with us? Are you guys out there? Can you hear me? Make a sound if you can hear me.
Speak up. Give us a sign you're present. Unmute. Hello, everyone.
All right, so let's begin. Do you guys believe in ghosts?
Yeah, but I don't know if it was just like my mind or the older I get, the less I see them. I mean, because like, I guess the older you get, certain sounds you can't hear anymore.
Ghosts are fun. I especially love them during Halloween. All of that is great. But I don't subscribe to there are ghosts. I do subscribe I'm more energy.
I do believe in ghosts, so that kind of contradicts.
I guess not in the traditional sense. I don't think that there are ghosts that move objects and haunt houses and are presence that make themselves known.
I don't believe that they are the way that they've been prescribed to us in the movies.
I don't know. Your energy just exists in the world and it manifests in whatever way.
Deep down, I don't really believe in ghosts, but if someone asks me, I say yes, because if there are ghosts, I don't want to disrespect them and give them a reason to come after me.
Because sometimes I think that too. It's just like, oh, what if I go to like this cemetery for fun or something, and then somehow a spirit decides to attach itself to me?
Oh, you often go to cemeteries for fun?
Because you don't know. You can bring that back with you, or like cultures and stuff. Like you can't touch things, or you can't, like sacred items, you can't bring back with you because you're bringing back the bad luck.
What if that ghost doesn't even speak English?
I'm sorry, if ghosts exist, there'd just be ghosts everywhere. There's 8 billion people alive today. Let's say in 80 years, everybody alive today will be dead, right? That's 8 billion ghosts.
It always seems to be the angry ones that stick around, right? So like the ones with unfinished business, or...
I also want to know why all these ghosts are like angry Victorian era children.
Like, why are there no ghosts from 2001, you know, that listen to Craig David? Like, I mean, like...
And none of them are like a cranky like man from the 70s asking where his weed is, or something. Like you roll a mean blunt, man.
Why are we always from the Victorian era? Did we stop becoming ghosts after Queen Victoria died? I'm confused. Like, that's why I can't subscribe to it. It would be fun though. After this, if I just go and be like, I just saw a ghost. It was wearing hipster clothes. That would be cool.
I don't know. I don't know why a lot of them take, like a lot of the ghosts are from 18th century. From my experience, I've never really seen the ghosts, so I can't say.
"45% of Americans believe in ghosts, and over 20% believe they've seen one. In folklore, a ghost is a soul, spirit, or energy believed to have been separated from their body, continuing to exist after death. Since the prehistoric times, the notion of ghosts and spirits have lingered. Wherever there is death, this belief remains. Many philosophers and religions as ancient as the Sumerians will tell you something remains on after we die. Common attributes of a ghost include a misty, ethereal material, bringing cold temperatures wherever they are present. Oftentimes, ghosts are thought to be of the dead who are looking for vengeance or have unfinished business, those who've experienced a violent death. Accounts of Lady in White have been reported across many different cultures. A type of female ghost dressed in a white dress or similar are often associated with local stories of tragedy. Common themes include loss, betrayal, and unrequited love, as well as purity. This is in contrast to the Lady in Red ghost, who is mostly attributed to a prostitute or a jilted, jealous lover. One common ghost or demon reported all over the world is one that visits while you're asleep, sitting on your chest. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, sleep paralysis. Isn't that when, like, they say that the ghost is sort of like pressed on you? I definitely had sleep paralysis. I was in the dream and I was getting chased in the dark. The guy that chased me, or the girl chasing me, cut off both of my arms. And I'm in the forest and it is dark, so they leave me there to, like, die. And of course, I wake up and it's dark and I can't feel my arms because of sleep paralysis. And I wanted to speak up, but I couldn't. But all I kept thinking was, like, I'm definitely awake now and I can't feel my arms. So this actually happened.
There have been 2 times where Connor kind of left me alone and I had to go to sleep at night by myself in my room. And both nights I had very severe sleep paralysis. And I think that's the closest I've ever come to believing ghosts. Like, I remember I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard a noise, but I was so terrified that I could not move my body at all. I think I tried opening my eyes, but I refused to because I, like, just heard this, like, noise and I felt this, like, I remember feeling, like, really hot and I felt something breathing down on my neck. It felt like an hour of just that. And I refused to open my eyes and I just laid like that. And so I was like, it was just really bad sleep paralysis.
Do you think there's any kind of supernatural element to it?
I think there could be, but I don't know. Like supernatural, because I know the scientific reasoning for it, I tend to just believe that. But before I knew it was even called sleep paralysis, I grew up believing that it was a ghost sitting on your chest.
Sleep paralysis happens oftentimes during REM. It's a mixed state of consciousness, blending both wakefulness and REM sleep, thought to happen in order to stop you from thrashing about, reacting to your dreams, which occurs right after falling asleep or waking up. Researchers conclude that in most cases, it's simply a sign that your body is not moving smoothly through the stages of sleep. In addition to a condition known as atonia, a brief loss of muscle control, people often exhibit hallucinations, both visual and auditory. 75% of sleep paralysis episodes involve hallucinations that fall into 3 categories. Intruder hallucinations, which involve the perception of a dangerous person or presence in the room. Chest pressure hallucinations, also called incubus hallucinations, that can incite a feeling of suffocation. These frequently occur along with intruder hallucinations. Then there's vestibular motor hallucinations, which can include feelings of movement, such as flying or out-of-body sensations. According to sleepfoundation.org, estimates vary, but researchers believe that about 8% of people experience sleep paralysis at some point in their lives. The idea that a spirit, ghost, or demon can possess a person is a part of nearly all religions. Exorcisms have been recorded throughout history, seen as far back as the ancient legends of the Babylonians and Persians, and recently within the Catholic Church as well. Perhaps the most famous account was the exorcism of Anneliese Michel in 1976. It was the basis of the 2005 horror film The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Born in 1952 in Klingenberg, Germany, Anneliese Michel experienced her first episode of, quote, demonic possession at the age of 16. It's believed she suffered from an undiagnosed brain disorder, likely epilepsy, schizophrenia, or both. Brought up in a strict Catholic home, the family brought in a priest for help after a neurologist, a Dr. Luthi, advised them to consult a Jesuit, a claim the doctor would later deny. There were 67 exorcism attempts to help cure her within the next few years, up until she succumbed to starvation at the age of 23. This case ended up in court and was known worldwide. Like exorcism, attempts of communication with the spirits and the dead have also been around for a long time. Seances, Ouija boards, through spirit mediums. Have you had any experiences with communicating with spirits? Do you believe it's possible?
I don't. Well, I kind of do. But, so, you know those TV shows where it's like Long Island Medium? I've always wanted to meet one. The closest I ever got to one was the Topsfield Fair in like 2018. I was like really excited because like I don't believe in that stuff, but I understand that they have to be very observant people to kind of watch you and see how you react, and based on that give you an explanation. They said something to my one friend that she was kind of like embarrassed about, and I like patted her hand. I was like, it's okay. So they were going on about me like, you're very compassionate, yada yada yada, and they're like, there's someone near you, like there's an old man near you who recently died, like who is he? And I was like, oh, is it my grandpa? And she's like, yes, your grandfather. My grandpa died like 10 years ago. And so it's kind of like that stuff where I think like you give them the information and they kind of like pull from it. So whenever I think of like seances and that stuff, I'm kind of like, I think they're just telling you what you want to hear, which I can appreciate. I kind of want to do it though, just to see if, or like give them wrong information.
Yeah.
Like,
choose your own adventure.
yeah.
If you could communicate with a ghost or spirit, what would you want to ask?
Well, first I'd ask if they get hungry. And then obviously, you know, ask like why are you here? Like, what happened to you? Sometimes I hope it's just like some dumb teenager who's kind of like, I'm waiting to get to hell or something. So I thought I might as well mess with some people, like, or waiting to get to heaven. I mean, because if I was a ghost, I'd do stupid shit. Like, first of all, I'd want to be a ghost in a house with a cat, and I just knock things over and blame it on the cat. Except I'd want it where, like, I'd knock things over the opposite of where a cat was, and then, the owner would slowly go crazy. Or I'd be like, you know, like one of those things where it's like, oh, if the house occupants leave a bowl of cereal out for me, I'll be nice. Like, I'll make them do crazy things.
Yeah.
You know, like just to mess with them. Like, oh, like we have a ghost, but as long as you leave like a Fruit Loop out, she's happy. And it's like stories of like how my ghost helped cured my depression. It's like my ghost would keep making noise until I cleaned the house, and that eventually helped me. Or like my ghost wouldn't stop haunting me and writing in the fog of my mirror, like, go to therapy, like, don't forget to floss.
Virtually all cultures and religions have traditions of ghosts and spirits. They linger, haunt, guide our memories and history. Places and objects often reported sightings, possessions, and feelings. Ancient religions have a key feature of animism, the idea that all things, animate and inanimate, possess a spirit or an essence. This belief dates as far back as the Paleolithic period. It's a feature found in many current practices and beliefs today, especially in the indigenous tribal cultures. Have you guys had any experiences with hauntings yourself?
Yes. And this is gonna make me sound crazy, but I feel like you can feel the energy in like the room or the home. Because previous places I've lived, and I've talked about like the ghosts that I've experienced in there's times where like I couldn't even step into the basement because I just felt some sort of energy like not letting me in, and I just become so scared, paralyzed, and so I just can't. So my sister used to sleep in a room right next to that basement door. So she used to complain to us that her bed would like randomly vibrate at night, and we're just like, you know, maybe you're just shivering and you don't realize it or whatever. But then one night, I just happened to go into her room to take a nap, and I woke up to like the whole bed just shaking, and I was so fucking scared. And it's like, it's because she's right next to all like the ghosts in the basement. And you know how you said it, like the spirits are like attached to, you know, land and stuff. A lot of that started happening after my brother tried to build his own pond in the backyard. So he actually just like started digging all around. So we think maybe he really just started to upset the spirits. And then when we moved to the new place, like I wasn't afraid to walk into the basement or anywhere in the house. It kind of just felt like a more peaceful place to be. So even though I believe in the ghosts, I wouldn't necessarily believe everyone's experiences with them. I think it's like 50-50.
Yeah.
Like the show Ghost Hunters, a lot of that is a bunch of nonsense and stuff.
In terms of how they test it, yeah, that machine that reads like electromagnetic waves.
Where they just like beep. I don't kind of believe that. Just like static in the air, and sometimes you hear what you want to hear.
Because I think they're just doing it for entertainment. But, I mean, it could be real.
The definition of death has gone through multiple reiterations, and when you consider how different cultures see death, it's even harder to define. Defining it can be as straightforward as Webster's definition: the irreversible cessation of all vital functions, especially as indicated by permanent stoppage of the heart, respiration, and brain activity. the end of life. And yet sometimes it isn't always permanent. Does that mean a person was never actually dead? There's clinical death, and then there's brain death. What is death? Or rather, when? There is this experiment called the 21 grams experiment that attempted to measure the mass lost by a human when the soul departed the body. According to Wikipedia, the 21 grams experiment refers to a scientific study published in 1907 by Duncan McDougall, a physician from Haverhill, Massachusetts. McDougall hypothesized that souls have physical weight. This experiment was on the belief that humans have souls and animals do not, because after he weighed the dying humans, he then weighed dying dogs and noted the difference. This experiment is flawed on many levels. It's been cited as selective reporting and unscientific. Not only was the sample size of the experiment too small, with only 6 subjects, but it's presumed he poisoned healthy dogs. McDougall said he wished to use dogs that were sick or dying for this experiment. However, he stated he was unable to find any. Augustus C. Clarke, one of the many physicians that criticized this experiment, explained that at the time of death, the human bodies exhibited sudden rise in body temperature. The lungs are no longer cooling blood, causing this subsequent sweating, which could easily account for McDougall's missing 21 grams. Clarke also pointed out that, as dogs do not have sweat glands like we do, after death they wouldn't lose weight in this manner. Despite this experiment being rejected as scientific fact, the idea that the soul has weight spread quickly. This case is far from the last to attempt an explanation of human souls and death. In 1975, Raymond Moody published a book called Life After Life, where he coined the phrase near-death experiences, or NDEs. It's considered the quote-unquote Bible of near-death experiences. These NDEs have been reported all over the world for a very long time. Characteristics include going through a tunnel, a bright light, hearing voices, and communicating with the dead. Because 1 in 10 patients who experience cardiac arrest report an episode of NDE, a large-scale study was launched in 2008, led by Dr. Sam Parnia, Assistant Professor of Critical Care Medicine and Director of Resuscitation Research at the State University of New York. It involved 2,060 patients from 15 hospitals in the UK, US, and Austria. The study is looking for objective proof of out-of-body near-death experiences. It involved many tests. One included a high shelf being installed in the standard hospital room where patients were likely to experience cardiac arrest. Placed on those shelves, facing the ceilings, were images not visible by hospital staff. Basically, the idea was that if and or when someone was going to have this experience, they'd be looking down at themselves from above, which is often reported during NDEs. They'd be able to see that picture and recall what they saw. Out of 2,060 patients who experienced the cardiac arrest, 101 of the 140 survivors were able to complete the questionnaire. Of these 101, 9% were classified as NDEs. 2 of these patients describe, quote, seeing and hearing actual events related to the period of cardiac arrest. The only problem was they didn't have a shelf installed in their rooms, so that test was inconclusive in that regard. No images could be used to objectively test claims of visual awareness. Results of the study have been published in the journal Resuscitation and are available online. It essentially concludes that the recalled experience surrounding death merits a genuine investigation without prejudice.
I heard this one funny theory where they were like, what if ghosts are just tears or very thin parts in like the time waves or something? This guy was like, oh, my friends have this ghost in their apartment, a Victorian school kid. Sometimes he slams the door too much. They can hear like him bouncing a ball or something and they'll be, oh, like stop that, blah, 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 and then it stops. So they're like, imagine 1800 New England and a kid is throwing a ball against his door and there's a ghost saying, stop that right now. Like it's just little tears in the space-time continuum.
To this day, there has been no irrefutable scientific evidence that ghosts exist. That doesn't mean an experience didn't happen. It's just much easier to disprove than prove in this regard, so let's attempt to reframe this and explain why. Let's start with those often reported unsettling feelings. Infrasound is a low-frequency sound vibrating below 20 Hz. below the threshold for human hearing. It's perhaps the most mysterious and bizarre because if it's high enough within its low range, these frequencies have a profound physical effect on our bodies, vibration being one. We can feel our body vibrate from this, not enough to pinpoint exactly, but enough to notice. We use ultrasound vibrations in medicine for one to break up kidney stones. But regarding infrasound, it has an effect on human emotions and our psyche as well. There was a study done in the Purcell Room in London, a concert hall, where they played an experimental organ pipe of infrasound as low as 16.4 hertz. It was a double-blind experiment because the instrumentalist monitoring the experiment wasn't told which pieces the infrasound was going to be in. With 750 concert-goers, reports of strange reactions were collected, including sorrow, coldness, anxiety, shivers down the spine, and a sudden memory of emotional loss. Natural sources of infrasound, including wind, air conditioning systems, fans, and traffic, could possibly explain reports of hauntings in buildings. Another example included a haunted laboratory in Coventry University, England. Along with the feelings of unease, anxiety, and depression, there were even reports of visual manifestation of gray shapes included. After some experiments, it turned out to be due to a faulty fan, causing the room to be subjected to infrasound. Upon repair, people reported immediate improvement in their emotions. And the reason for the visual manifestations? It's speculated it might be due to the infrasonic frequencies present. At the frequency of 18 hertz, the vibrations of infrasound resonates with the structure of the human eyeball. More often than not, the infrasound is coupled with sleep deprivation. And add the scary aesthetics of the environment, it's no surprise you have the ingredients for one hell of a scary movie. Why do you think people like being scared?
I don't know. It's like an adrenaline rush for a lot of people. And then they know, at least in those instances, like they can't get hurt.
I definitely think people like being scared. I'm not one of those people, but I definitely think that people like being scared. I run from scared. I have really bad anxiety. That's just doesn't work for me.
I can't go to haunt. I get too scared now. And just hearing people scream, I had so much anxiety.
I have always wanted to play horror games because I'm like, oh, they sound so fun. I think because the jump scares get people's heart racing and it's the adrenaline and that makes them feel good. Also, like there's an art to watching horror movies, I feel, like predicting the jump scares. I would not know because every time I've had to watch a horror movie with people, I have always looked at the lower left part of the screen, cover like discreetly and not so discreetly, just like cover my ears.
During those fight or flight moments, a hormone called epinephrine or adrenaline is released to trigger a reaction that causes our hearts to speed up, our breathing to become more rapid, allowing our muscles to get more blood from the increase of oxygen. These hormones protect us from feeling pain and energizes us. It varies from person to person, but more often than not, it leaves you feeling good. I suppose it's all about context. In a situation we actively enter, like these Halloween haunted houses and watching horror movies, we know that there is no threat. But cut to being alone, walking to your bathroom during the dead man's hour, and it's a whole new scary picture. Ghosts to the left of you, ghouls to the right. Why do you think people believe they've seen a ghost?
Because they're there.
I think a lot of it is your brain, because I think I read somewhere that your brain, like you have some blind spots, but your brain kind of just fills in that gap. Like I will always like see things. Like I'll always see like a person, you know, like that girl from The Ring. I always see her in the corner of my eye. And so when I go in the bathroom in the corner of my eye, I think it's someone with their hair down. And then when I take a quick look back, I'm like, oh, it's just that. So I'm thinking, because in my subconscious, I'm always like kind of trying to keep an eye out if someone's in the room with me, you know, just being a girl. And so when I can't see, I feel like when I can't see something and my brain is trying to piece together a picture, I feel like subconsciously my brain is like, that's a person, be aware. And then I look over and it's like, no, it's not a person, like crisis averted.
It's been reported that 6 in 10 people claim to either see or hear their dead loved ones. Aside from a few exceptions, most paranormal experiences are positive. It's a universal truth that we experience regret with the dead. The thought of them living on is a powerful, comforting belief. Why do you think people believe or want to believe in ghosts, or that something is beyond death?
I guess that wraps back to my point that a lot of disbelief is based in fear.
I mean, it is the great unknown.
It's the great unknown, because to know it is to die. You don't come back from death, no matter what they tell you in the books, right?
Maybe you do pass, like, in The Good Place. Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
I actually liked their theory about that, where you move on and it's just nothing.
I feel like have you seen The Good Place? I feel like if I did believe in a heaven or hell, it would kind of be something like that, where like it's based on your actions.
And I think that, I can't say one way or the other if there's an afterlife. I can't say if there are ghosts, but I think that, all civilizations came to a belief in an afterlife because people fear not existing. It's a concept you can't grasp. I mean, it's so out of the realm, the human experience.
And it's easier for humans to ascribe ghosts to us after death, because then it's a comfort. Oh, even when I'm gone, I still be here in some way, even though the people alive won't know it. It's a little bit of a comfort in that sense.
A lot of people live miserable, pious lives because they really think there's something on the other side for them. I truly hope there is.
I don't know, my mom likes to believe that my grandma, who recently passed away, will come visit her in her dreams and stuff. And I think it brings comfort to a lot of people. At least it's comforting to believe, at least think that my grandma can come visit and we have this food out for her. The scary ones, please leave me alone.
That undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns. Hamlet said it best. The questions that death brings, will we ever know? I don't believe so. That's the charm, or rather, that's life. Thank you to my guests, Kemra, Tara, Cam, Mary, and Angelica. Always a pleasure. Be sure to tune in for the next coming installment, because although it might be a while, this isn't the end. I've been your host, Sokita Kiev. Make sure you like, subscribe, and listen in to the TheWHYFiles.